up, gamers? I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today on Dice & Dragons, we are going to be reviewing Fast and Furious Highway Heist. This is published by Funko Games and designed by Prospero Hall. Now I'm going to toss it over to Julie, who will tell you more about the game itself.
So it is a cooperative, according to the box, strategy game, and we'll get into that, for ages 12 and above, 2 to 4 players, and plays in about 60 minutes according to the box. Our experience shows us 30 minutes for 2 people, so probably the best guess would be 15 minutes per player.
And it will really depend on the scenario because you can move really quickly in this game. I think if you play it a lot, you could definitely easily get it under the 60 minutes. Now, just a little bit of a housekeeping note before I explain what you will be doing in the game. I have separated the how to play for this. It will be in a separate video. So popping up above my head or Julie's head will be a link that will take you to that video when it is released. If it's coming out before this or after this video, I haven't quite decided yet. Well, let's talk about the game now. What will you be doing in Fast and Furious Highway Heist? Well, you'll be driving fast cars, becoming your favorite member of the Fast family. They really should have had Mia included as well, but there is a great cast of characters. This is based on Fast 6 and 7, so you've got Ramsey, you've got Dom. Well, Ramsey's in it, but she's the damsel in distress. So you will be fighting Cypher, the Shaw brothers. You've got Dom, Letty, Brian, Tej, Roman, and Han Solo. Oh, yes, that is a play on the name Han Solo, but it's spelled in the Korean fashion. As you can see, I am the fan of the franchise. So you're driving your cars. You will have to complete different objectives, which are actually stunts in the game. So do crazy stunts to either take out a tank, rob a semi-truck, or destroy Deckard Shaw's reinforced car and a really badass chopper that does a lot of damage. To do that, you will be wrecking SUVs, leaping from your moving vehicle onto another moving vehicle. What? Is that even possible? Well, according to Fast and Furious physics, it actually is. So it makes sense that it's in the game. You will also be dueling people on top of cars as you brawl and, do what you got to do to complete the objective. So that's a nice summary of the game. We will still have the components for you, so you'll be able to check those out if you're interested. If not, take a look down below in the video description. You can hit that timestamp and jump ahead to our review. What time is it, Julie?
Time to grab our drink.
Grab our best friend.
We're going to take it to the table one more time.
One more time. I'm not sure
how... I
how...
can't just go like this, huh?
No, you can't flick the chopper and have its blade spins. I don't know if the entire board is visible, but we'll move some pieces up so that you can see it, but it's clearly set up and we're going to play. Now we're going to take a quick look at the components for Fast and Furious Highway Heist. We're going to start with our characters and, of course, their awesome vehicles. You've got Team Toretto, special ability, a quarter mile at a time. Whenever you attempt a skill roll, you may reroll 1 die at a time, which is cool. You've got his stats for speed, control, athletics. Then just a list of all the different actions that you can take. Once your hero is gone, you flip them over to the exhausted side, and you'll see what abilities they can still use when exhausted. Here you've got Brian O'Connor. So on your turn, you may take 1 leap action. That does not count as one of your 2 actions, which is really damn cool. We've got Letty Ortiz. While your player vehicle is manned, add 1 to all of your defensive skill rolls. So that's cool as well. Han Solo, whenever you take a drive action, after you end your movement, you may swap positions with an adjacent enemy SUV. Tej Parker, hack the system. Take 3 Tej tokens at the start of the game, and then on your turn you may discard a Tej token to take an extra action. So these are the Tej tokens. We just had them in a pile of tokens over here as we've taken a look at it. I'll move it off camera. And then we have Roman Pierce, the double alpha. Whenever you successfully perform a stun action, take an additional boost token from the supply, and you can go up to 5 boosts, which is pretty cool. So we'll take a look at the vehicles, the cars. We, of course, have American Muscle, whose ability is Launch It. Whenever you successfully ram an enemy SUV, you may move the resulting wreck into an adjacent space, so you can move it anywhere around you, which is pretty cool. The Import Racer at the start of your turn. If your Import Racer is manned, you may move 1 space in any direction. The Exotic Supercar. Release the Beast. While your Exotic Supercar strength is 7 or 8, add 1 success to your speed and control rolls. And then Street Drifter, lose them fast on your turn. When your Street Drifter is manned, you may attempt one shake action that does not count as one of your 2 actions. So you can try to shake the enemy off of you. So these are vehicles. We've got the little miniatures for the vehicles there. We also have these underlight tokens and character pegs that will match whichever car that you pick. And the underlight tokens are for if you take over an enemy SUV, you just put them under the SUV so everyone knows that's the one that you are controlling. Now, before we get too far into stuff, we also need to take a look at the rule book and rule book. So we have Highway Heist, the main rule book, and then we have the instructions for the 3 different scenarios. I've got this out of order, but the first one is tank assault, semi-heist, and chopper takedown. What I like about all of these is they do have an FAQ section on the back to answer all your questions. You also get most of what you need from these boards, which also have all the setup instructions. So as you can see, explanations for the tank assault, but the setup instructions are on the back. No, oops, just upside down. I hate when they do stuff like that, but I guess it does make more sense. So same thing for the semi-heist, as well as the chopper takedown. Now you notice that we also have spaces for multiple cubes with the chopper takedown. So while we have some of the cubes here, so these are the ones for the scenarios, these gray ones here, you've got 3 of them. These ones are that track the health of your player car. Now we'll take a look at the rule book. So we got the rule book here, FAQ on the back, and then just a really nice overview of the components and what you're going to be doing in the game. Didn't have any issues going through this rule book and learning the game whatsoever. You also do have a nice reference card for the enemy actions and then for your actions as well. And it tells you what you do in your turn. Take up to 2 actions and then roll the enemy die. So we do have the different scenarios. We'll take a look at these in a second. I want to look at these other, I'm going to call them minis for lack of a better word, and then we'll take a look at the cards. We've got the chopper for the chopper scenario. We also have Deckard Shaw's car. Here we've got the semi-truck, which is pretty cool because the door opens, and that is part of the scenario, which I really enjoyed. And we have this big bag tank for the tank assault. We have the dice, the effort dice here, which can either be a 1, a boost symbol, or if you spend one of your boost tokens, you can convert them to successes, a success and a boost token, or a double success. Now this enemy die will either trigger the enemies, move the SUVs, trigger the drawing of an enemy card, or move the enemy and draw an enemy card. That's what can happen with those. Here are the enemy cards. There's some for each scenario. They've got different effects. So like, for example, this is out of place. We'll just put it back where it's supposed to go. Crunch time, place an enemy SUV directly in front of each player vehicle. You'd have to raise the radar. And then when it gets activated, as you can see, there's different spots here. You move the cards along as more cards come out. When they're activated, you trigger this effect on the card. So we're not going to look at all of them. Just wanted to show you what you got there. We'll take a quick look at the stunt cards. We're only going to, let's try to pick them all up. So as you can see, level 1 through 3 for all of them. The level 3 stunt, as you can see here for the chopper takedown, is your last stunt that you can do and usually can do a ton of damage or let you just win the scenario. Whereas the level 1 and level 2 stuff is going to help you get closer to completing your objective. So for example, stop hitting yourself. This will let you do damage to the tank, which is what you got to do in order to defeat the tank scenario. So we've almost taken a look at all the components. Last couple things we got here, we got the gray generic enemy pegs. We've got the SUVs. We then have the game board, which I love the fact that it has a quote. Doesn't matter what's under the hood. What matters is who's behind the wheel, from Team Toretto. And then you can see the board. You've got your north, east, south, west. You're going to be essentially moving this way constantly. And the game does a pretty good job of simulating movement. So there you have it. We've taken a look at all the components for Fast and Furious Highway Heist. Now keep it right here as Julie and I will be coming back at you with our review of the game. I quickly forgot something before we get to our review. There are 2 tokens that we didn't take a look at. We've got the cargo tokens, which are used in the semi-truck heist. You'll be tossing them to your cars. And then we have Ramsey, as you can see, got the radar symbol there, who you'll be maybe even moving between your cars as you try to defeat Cypher's Helicopter and Deckard Shaw. So there you have it. Those are the last components. I just forgotten about them. Now we're really getting on to our review of the game. Fast and Furious Highway Heist. What did you think of this game?
I think my overarching comment would be it is much more fun than this game has a right to be.
Yes. When you really look at the game and if you saw the components, I'd say they are fairly basic. We don't have the best card stock in terms of the actual cards themselves. The player boards and everything else, good cardboard, solid plastic, but the miniatures, I don't really want to call them miniatures, but the cars, as you can see, they're rather small. That's an enemy SUV. You've got your player cars that are colored.
There's not a lot of details on them.
Not a lot of details. I mean, the helicopter that you were trying to spin the blades does have a little bit more detail to it.
See, there you go.
Okay, well.
I don't know if it's in focus or not.
Okay, but we don't want to keep that there. So in any case, not the best quality components, does not have the highest price point. However, I believe this is right around that $35 to $40 Canadian, which is a really nice price point for us. So you really wouldn't expect like you're getting a lot out of this game. And on top of that, it's a licensed game. But what does it have going for it? It's got Prospero Hall and Funko Games, who did a great job with Back to the Future, Back in Time.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You're chucking dice, so as with any dice chucking game, there is luck to it. So that's why, I said at the beginning, it says that it's a strategy game. There's not a whole lot of strategy happening here, at least not for the type of cooperative games that we normally play. Maybe if you don't normally play board games and this is, a game that you're picking up, and then maybe it's a little bit of strategy, because you do have to consider you have to consider certain things when you're taking actions.
So I think a great way to describe it is on these cards, there are certain actions that may trigger. Sometimes nothing will happen. Sometimes it's really nasty. So your positioning and different things that you are doing in the game must be taken into account, because you don't want to say N next to 4 of the enemy SUVs when the card has a chance of triggering and it will deal 4 damage to you. And if you're next to 4 or 5 of them, well, you're in a lot of trouble then. Even if you just roll a different roll, you could end up losing your car. The nice thing about the game is that you can't die. I mean, in Fast 9, they do reference the fact that maybe they're all superheroes, so you do get to feel a little bit super heroic when you're playing this game. And the Fast and the Furious is filled with ridiculous stunts, so leaping from your car to an enemy car and brawling on tops of cars is nothing new for this franchise.
Apparently, Roman can jump 3 spaces.
So 3 car lengths from a moving vehicle.
Yes.
I mean, that's ridiculous, but it works really well.
It's kind of superhero-y.
Yes. It does work very well for this game. And in terms of characters, they do all have their own asymmetric powers. They're not that difficult to use. Each of the car has their own asymmetric abilities, and you can assign, your player to whichever car that you want. You can even hijack enemy SUVs. So if your player vehicle does get destroyed, don't worry about it. Just kick that enemy peg out of a car and take it over, and you can get into more trouble and have more fun.
Yeah, so I mean, it's fun. It's a light, easy game. That's what I think I would say to describe it.
Why don't we talk about the actions then a little bit?
Well, I mean, there's the different things you can do. You can drive your car. You can leap from your car. Mm-hmm. You can ram an SUV, or you can push it somewhere.
Yes, hijack the enemy SUV, as we mentioned. You've got your boost tokens that will change these symbols into successes. So if you ever played a game where you're rolling dice to get successes, as Julie mentioned, you'll know what you're doing. And you're just taking 2 actions per turn and then rolling the enemy die. So the gameplay will go very quickly. Once you figure out what you're doing, it's like, I'm doing this, roll, and it's on to the next player.
Yeah. So, I mean, for that, you can have a bad game come up because there also is the randomness of how the cards are coming up.
So we have the different stun cards, which will let you complete your goal. There's level 1 through 3, and the level 3 stun card is the last card. They will move across the board. You can see part of the board, but essentially they move across like this. If the third card ever moves off, then that's how you will lose the game. If you ever can't complete one of the objectives, that's the other way you will lose the game. For example, in the semi-truck heist, you must have 2 manned player vehicles. So they specifically say player vehicles. And an enemy SUV, I guess it could be considered as a player vehicle, but we weren't quite sure. We figured it meant that we had to have our actual, player vehicle car. But, it is blue, so maybe that would have counted if we just hijacked an SUV.
Yeah, so, I mean, the advantages for me, as I said, is it's pretty fast, it's straightforward, it's easy, it's not a brain burner by any stretch of the imagination. And it moves fast, so there's a lot of things always happening. So I think that's part of the reason why it's a lot of fun. Now, disadvantages to it is it doesn't really, require all too much brain power or thinking ahead. And the other negative thing I find, I guess, is it's very fluky in the sense of whether you're going to have a hard time or if it's going to be extremely easy. So, this last play that we did with the helicopter was extremely easy.
Yes, we got some cards that just completely went our way. And what ended up happening is that Julie was able to do 2 damage to Deckard Shaw's vehicle, which is not supposed to be the easiest. And as you mentioned with the dice, the way the enemy die comes up could really have a huge impact on each of your games. So by wrecking these SUVs, and I'm playing Tej, I've got these nice Tej tokens, which lets me take an extra action. I was able to do 3 damage essentially to the helicopter in 1 turn. So we had the helicopter off the board very early on in the game. Whereas when we were playing the semi-truck scenario, we had a couple of bad rolls and it wasn't overly difficult, but it still wasn't easy. Like I said, that the lack of clarity if a hijacked SUV is a manned player vehicle or if it's just our cars. And I'm sure that's probably in the FAQ somewhere and we just didn't think to look it up. That's one thing they do really like, is that there's the scenario booklets, which are in front of Julie, and you can see that you do have those frequently asked questions that are responded to there.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't really have a lot to add. This is not a very complicated game. I would say if you don't like dice chucking games, then, you won't enjoy this. I've enjoyed some of the Fast and Furious movie. I'm not as big a fan. I think I like my fast cars. I think this is just, out of the realm. It's more like a superhero with cars.
Yes. And one element that I really want to highlight before we get to our final scores is I love the way that the board simulates movement, because you've got, north, east, south, west, but every turn, depending on if the cars are, potentially still running, they will move, across the board. So if you wreck an SUV, it's going to drift backwards and potentially smash into other SUVs, other player vehicles, and take them out, which I think is cool. So the game does work to simulate that level of motion across the board, which I just really like.
Yeah, I think it's a neat feature.
All right, Julie, so Fast and Furious Highway Heist. You kind of looked at me sideways when I bought this game. What did you think? What's your final rating here?
I'm going to give it a 6.5 because it's a lot of fun, but it's not, not the best game out there. I mean, it's fun. It's a nice, easy, light game that you could play pretty much anybody. It says 12 and above. I definitely think you could play it with younger kids. It might probably be for components. I mean, pegs fairly small, so you could probably get away with kids that are like 7, 8 fairly easily. Kids who have experience playing other board games.
I mean, all you're doing is rolling dice and making decisions, and as it's a co-op game, it's very easy for you to assist them in that case. And I'm going to agree with Julie. This is a 6.5, and I really think that the rating reflects on what you're getting in the box compared to other games, but it is fun. Like, don't take this 6.5 and say this is not a great, fun time at the table. It's just not necessarily the best game. It's going to fit very well as a precursor to game night. We seem to be playing a lot of those types of games as of late. And it will be great to play with families and anyone that's just a fan of Fast and the Furious, but isn't necessarily a big board gamer. They're going to pick it up very, very easily. So great job from Funko and Prospero Hall of really taking the theme of Fast and Furious and getting it into the box. And all the powers feel thematic. The cars feel thematic to the types of cars. They're the exotic cars, the fastest one.
Yeah, and
American
that's something
Muscle.
we didn't mention is that each player and car has their own power. So the cars also have different features and powers.
Well, I mentioned the powers, but we didn't talk about the characteristics. You're right about that. So
yeah.
So the control, the speed, the defense, all of that is different. And I just really like what they've done with this game. They didn't try too hard, and I think if they maybe tried too hard, it would have just failed. But instead, you've got a really fun Fast and Furious game that you can easily get to the table. And we didn't mention setup time, one of the things we try to talk about more. Setup time is really quick. Once you get the stuff out of the box, I say, what, about 5 minutes?
You set it up, so.
Yeah, well, you were watching me do it. You were texting, and then you were like, it's done already?
So on that note, it's time to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we have some new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you would like to see pictures of Julie and I playing Fast and Furious Highway Heist, well, there'll be plenty on those feeds. We got through all the scenarios, tried out all the content, well, between both of us. So you'll get to see everything this game has to offer. And also down below in the video description is our link to multizone.ca. Click that link, get 10% off your next purchase, and it's a great way for you to support the channel as a portion of that purchase is returned to us. And now popping up in front of us are going to be links to our previously released videos. Over here will be our most recent release, and in front of Julie will be our how to play of Fast and Furious Highway Heist. So now what time is it?
Time to grab our drink.
Grab our best friend.
And we're going to keep playing games.
Keep playing games. I know we're going to get this one back out, and I really wasn't sure if this was going to come in and out, but happy to say it's going to stick around.
I was going to say exactly that. I think this game's sticking around. You normally ask me, I answered.